As sports history fans, we often reminisce about the legends. Willis Reed limping on to the NBA Finals court, Curt Schilling's bloody sock, Kerry Strug's courageous dismount, and so many more. These moments often define sports history. But what about the countless injuries that did not become legends, or careers that were derailed due to inadequate care? That's where this episode's sponsor comes in. Introducing to you, ILP Sports Consultants, your trusted sports injury partner, available 24/7. Brian Maelli at ILP Sports Consultants has over 20 years of experience in the orthopedic and sports medicine industry, and he has worked with athletes across the gamut, from youth to amateurs, professionals, in almost every sport played in the United States of America, accommodating athletes at every stage of their career. This adaptability ensures that ILP services are perfectly tailored to your skill level, no matter where you are in your athletic journey. With ILP, you are in control. Choose the steps that matter most to you. Diagnosis, treatment plan, recovery, or the whole journey. ILP services are tailored to your unique needs. Rushing for care is a common pitfall, leading to future problems. ILP Sports Consultants helps you make the right decisions, ensuring that you receive timely and safe care. And here's the bonus. Brian hosts the Injured List podcast, sharing insights and athlete stories you won't want to miss. Whether you're a concerned parent or grandparent, or an athlete yourself seeking guidance, ILP Sports Consultants is your beacon of hope in sports injury management. Visit ILPsports.com today. That's the letters ILPsports.com. ILP Sports Consultants, where your well-being is the priority and your recovery is the mission. Choose ILP Sports Consultants for a healthier sports journey, helping you get back in the game the smart way.
Blog Talk Radio.
Tonight we'll go back in time to seasons past, when 22 men graced the rugged fields of yesterday, fighting for one more first down, one more yard gain, one final score which would bring victory after 60 minutes of battle on the gridiron. Tonight we'll explore the world of Gridiron Greats. Welcome to Gridiron Greats Football History and its Memorabilia on the Gridiron Greats Publishing and Broadcasting Network. In conjunction with Swick Enterprises, and we're live from the Southport, North Carolina home of Gridiron Greats Magazine. I'm Bob Swick, publisher and editor of Gridiron Greats Magazine, and I'll be your host for the show. Gridiron Greats is the only publication in America which focuses upon the history and memorabilia of the North American football game since inception in 1869. We cover 150-plus years of football history and memorabilia. You can find us on the web at GridironGreatsMagazine.com. It is at this time I'd like to introduce my co-host, the senior contributing writer to Gridiron Greats Magazine, a football memorabilia historian, specializing in pre-World War II items, in particular Red Grange, and Seattle Seahawk items, in particular Steve Largent.
Yeah.
He hails from Portland, Oregon, Mr. Joe Squires. Joe, welcome to the show this evening.
Captain, great to be on. Great to be on. Great intro, by the way. I don't know if you noticed the nuances. There's days where you're just on, when it rattles off the tongue, and there's days when you're better than on. I'm still getting used to Southport, North Carolina intro instead of Waldport, or instead of Connecticut. Excuse me. Yeah. It still kind of takes me by surprise. Southport, North Carolina.
Well, what's interesting about doing the show from down here now, I'm doing it from my man cave upstairs at the new compound, and I'm surrounded with football memorabilia every which way, and it's pretty much a mess right now because I'm trying to get ready for the national coming up. So I'm sorting stuff, putting stuff in binders, putting stuff in sheets, putting stuff away. So, but I have the feel in this house more so than I had with the old compound in Wallingford, because I was doing it in my upstairs office because of the reception issues I had there from my man cave downstairs of that house. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I'm looking.
Yeah,
I'm staring right now at my run of cards. So it's very interesting to say the least. But we're back.
Yeah,
we're back.
I really enjoy it. For those of you listening, we have a text thread that there's a couple of us collectors on that we just have little jokes and quips about, and every once in a while somebody will share a picture. It's been really hot, in Southport, North Carolina, so Bob's been sharing temperature, and weather reports, and then we just share pictures of cards lately. And I think it was like a couple months ago you got everything set up and you sent a picture of what your bookshelf looked like, and you're a very organized man, and it's just kind of fun seeing everything come out of boxes and organized and put the way you want them.
Yeah, I'm short 2 pieces of furniture. I still need to get some sort of some sort of display case or tall shelving unit, and then I got to get a desk for myself. And then once I do that, I can eliminate all the other stuff that's every which way. I have a little storage closet here in this room too, which is nice. So I got a lot of the inventory in there that I'm selling. So it's nice. It's nice. But getting back to the heat, we actually reached 108-degree heat index this afternoon, and it was pretty hot, I'll say. I ran out to get the mail and I ran back in, and that was it. But anyways, let's get down to business. And tonight we're going to be we have a wide open forum for our discussion tonight. We're going to go over a variety of different subjects. I want to lead off with talking about the National, and I also want to, as I'm talking about the National, I'm also going to mention I have gotten so many different responses from John Spano's column in the last issue of Gridiron Greats Behind the Table, and I'd like to expand a little as it applies to the National. And again, we have a lot of advanced collectors listening, so I think some of the stuff I'm going to say is they know already, but we have quite a few younger collectors and beginning collectors in the market listening also. So when you look at a National, I truly love the National because there's so many different things to look at, so many different tables to go to, so many different dealers to look at material. A lot of material you really don't see often, a lot of rare stuff, a lot of oddball football stuff, so on and so forth. But the one thing I'm going to lead off by saying, there's really nothing free in life, and to set up at a National is somewhat expensive. And it's not your local show that's in the Oaks Hall that you're paying $30 a table for. It's thousands of dollars involved for the table fees, and then you got to figure your transportation to get there, if you're staying overnight, your hotel room, your food that you're going to eat, so on and so forth. So a lot of dealers, when they're setting up for a National, you may be surprised the first couple of days of the show, you're really not getting what you feel are bargains because the dealer is trying to recoup some of the large expenses they have in setting up at a show of that nature. So again, if you see something that you want, if it's something that you need, that one card you need for a set, one program, whatever it is, my biggest suggestion is, even if you're going to pay a little more for it, I would suggest picking it up on Wednesday night or Thursday or Friday, the first time you're in the show, because you may go back to it and it's gone, and you're going to be real disappointed because that may have been, for whatever, the only 1967 Topps card you needed in the condition you wanted it, and you just couldn't find it in any other show, so on and so forth, or any other dealer. Just pick it up. Don't be afraid to buy it. And again, I always try to bring a good mix of material, but I'm also concentrating on selling Gridiron Greats magazine and the subscriptions to the magazine, so on and so forth. So again, think about that when you go to a show such as, or a large show such as the National, so on and so forth. I'm hopefully going to be doing a show toward the end of the year in Raleigh, North Carolina, with another company, and see how that is and see what kind of crowds they get, being more toward Virginia, North Carolina line. But the National this year is in Atlantic City. A lot of West Coast dealers and collectors do not come out. So it's basically a Midwest through New England show and Southern show of dealers and of collectors that come out. So it's interesting to see the mix, the crowd in the mix, and it's definitely not at all like the Chicago National, where you see a lot, a good mix of people from around the country. So it'll be interesting to see. And I'm also planning on staying through Sunday this year, just to try to accommodate any of the people who can't make it the first 4 days, and they can only make it on Sunday, so at least they'll can see something and see inventory and so on and so forth. Because traditionally at bigger shows, a lot of people just take off Saturday. I know when I'm in Chicago, I'm gone usually Saturday night or Sunday morning the first thing. And I fly back home, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So anyways,
Sundays are definitely dead days at shows. One of the things that, John and I have talked about at shows, but I mean, but a lot of times you share a booth with, or you used to share a booth with, Spano and or, Josh Adams. Right. And so that becomes our little football oasis, just hanging out behind there. And they started bringing couches, so it's definitely our little oasis. You mentioned, the tangible things, the cost to get there, hotel rooms, the food, the amount of money, the cost of the bench. Plus, you're hauling a lot of inventory out there. Some of that's fragile. You're either renting displays or bringing displays. But, getting all that inventory out there, keeping track of that inventory, keeping an eye on it so that people don't steal it. Or, John had some, interesting stories about people distracting him on one side, asking about stuff while people are, an obvious, pair working the other half, trying to steal stuff. But the biggest intangible that I remember him mentioning once is just how tired, how exhausting it is. Because if you're listening, you've probably walked a show or two, but the National's on a whole different level. I've walked it for 2-3 hours. You're walking through crowds of people. You're bumping shoulders. You're waiting in line to get stuff. Looking at display after display, grumpy dealers, etc. It's hard. After about 2-3 hours, I come and take a break. Imagine being on, 8 hours. Or if you have two people there, it's just having to be on, having to have your wits about you to make sure you're not getting ripped off. Answering customers' questions, being a nice person. You have to be on, and that's 3 days in a row. It's a lot of work. It's a Herculean effort.
Well, the key that I look at is the way I view it is I have only a certain amount of time basically to try to move inventory, sell items, talk to people, so on and so forth. Obviously, at a couple nights, we have a dinner get together, and I possibly will get together with somebody else, a few other people, friends of mine, the other couple nights. Wednesday is shot because by the time you get in on Wednesday, then you got to set up. It opens up Wednesday night, which I really never really understood why they would do something like that. I really believe it's to me, you could do Wednesday as a setup day and then open up early on Thursday morning, and you're much fresher. This way, you're going late into Wednesday night. Many people got to check into the hotel when they get there at that time, late at night, and then you're up early in the morning for Thursday and get back to the center and start basically an 8-hour day. So
8 hours.
It's a lot. It's a lot of. a lot of work. And the other thing you brought up, which is a very good point, the cost of your inventory that you're bringing, meaning that, you're not going to sell a $100 card that you only paid a nickel for. I mean, that card may have cost you may have bought it to resell it or whatever the case may be. You have investments in your inventory. I mean, we print Gridiron Greats magazine. Believe me, it's costly to print it and to mail it and to ship it. So, there's a cost involved with regards to tables, transportation, housing, food, inventory, so on and so forth. So if everybody, like I said this, and you probably saw it today when I said everybody wants a deal, and I agree with that. But again, the buyer and the seller, as John mentioned in the article, they both have to be satisfied in the transaction. And just keep that in mind when that grumpy dealer doesn't really want to negotiate with you on a dollar card or whatever the case might be.
Yeah. Totally. I was sitting at somebody else's table. I think it was Al Crisafoli with Love of the Game. I was sitting at his, booth once, and somebody came up and, was talking about a card. I don't remember. It was, a baseball card. So I tend to forget those things. Inferior sport. And somebody was like, well, you have this card here for $800. I can get this for $750 on eBay. Or I forget what it was, but it's just such a, and Al responded properly, where he's like, well, that guy on eBay didn't have to haul his inventory and his ass down here to, Chicago and set up,
Right.
Plus, let's talk about the risk of buying off of eBay. There is a risk. I mean, you have protections, but there is a risk. So here it is in front of you. You can inspect it. And I don't know. I think you nailed it. I remember there was a thread about this, on vintage football, but I learned a long time ago, just being fair to people in this hobby gets you so far, gets you so much traction. There used to be a guy I knew who was military and he was a collector, and he flat out told me once, he's like, buying, selling in this hobby is like a military, exercise. He's like, if you're not winning, you're losing. I forget, and he was like, I have to buy at the lowest and I have to sell at the highest, or else I'm not happy. And I was just like, man, what a dick. But he lost out on a deal once. Somebody was splitting some Hall of Fame cards up, and it was somebody I'd never, I didn't know. And I was, he mentioned he was selling them, and I got his cell phone number and called him, and he's like, yeah, this person just kind of lowballed me. And I'm like, well, let's talk about what's fair. And, you want $400 for that? Yeah, that sounds fair. $300 for that? Yeah. We went through, and I think he wanted $3,900 for it, and we ended up at $3,800. And he's like, man, this is easy. It took about 10 minutes, and he became a friend. I lived in Arizona, and I flew down there to visit a cousin, and had dinner with him, and blah blah blah. It's just, I don't know. That's how I want to be in this hobby. I think fair.
I agree with you 100%, and again, I really hope, and I feel very strongly. 99% of the people try to be fair, dealer wise and also collector wise. It's just that 1% that drives people crazy, especially at large shows or at small shows or any show you set up at. And I've been doing shows since the 80s, and there are some shows it was comical to deal with, and there were other shows I didn't want to break down and pack up and go home because I was having such a good time. I was selling things, people more than fair, so on and so forth. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what really what kind of feel we're going to get for the Nationals. You've
been doing this a long time too. You've got to have some. What's the rudest person you've ever bumped into at a show? Where you're just like, are you kidding me? Get out of here. John. John was giving advice on what to do and what not to do. But you've got that experience as well. I'd be curious to know.
Well, I normally say no thanks, and I just walk away. I walk to another part of the table. Then if the guy's still yelling at me, then I just ignore him, and that's it.
Yeah.
And I think as I've gotten older, my patience kind of wears a little by the end of the day. So if you want a nickel and dime me, fine, but you still have the option to say no. I don't want to give that away. I just assume give it away for nothing to a little kid type of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Than to please somebody who's trying to, try to get the upper hand in the deal, so on and so forth.
Totally.
So it's in a way, I look at local shows back in Connecticut that I did for years, and there were a couple of shows I stopped doing because just of that. It was just, you're getting beat up on prices all day. What's the point of setting up, so on and so forth. Then there were other shows in Connecticut. They had a good following. There were a lot of collectors there. They wanted you to bring the inventory. You brought the inventory. They went through it. They're more than fair pricing, so on and so forth. That's the fun of a show. You know what I mean? The fun of a show is not trying to get beat up by somebody across the aisle and being said, well, I can get this, like you said, I can get this on eBay I say, well, get on eBay and get it. What can I say?
Go on eBay and get it out.
Just buy it. Simple. It's be done and over.
Have at her.
Unbelievable.
So yeah. You just can't compare.
So anyway,
yeah. Anyway,
gotta take everything. Gotta take everything with a grain of salt when you're a dealer setting up at a large show or any show whatsoever, even at a flea market or an antique mall or whatever the case may be. So moving on, I know you want to touch base on some unopened material, and why don't we get into that at this time?
Yeah, and just one of the pictures that I sent out earlier, was just I just bought a. I've mentioned on the show a few times, but I'm getting back into unopened wax packs, and it's so funny because 7-8 years ago I sold all my unopened after a couple guests were on the show, and they talked about the proliferation of resealed. I even had a couple of experiences of BBC sealed boxes that I bought that ended up being fake, where somebody was sealing them and made their own stickers and forged. I mean, it's just, if there's $1 to be made, there's somebody out there, working their butt off trying to cheat you of that $1. And it's a little frustrating in our hobby, but anyways, the nostalgia of it outweighs it. I, started buying some unopened wax, and then I ended up with this display, in my office that I really love. I'm doing the show in my office right now, and behind me over my right shoulder is, a glass display case that locks up, and I, 7 times 3 rows, 21 wax packs in there, going, all the way back to 52, Bowman small, and all the way up to, I bought all the way up to 85, 86 tops, and it's just, I really enjoy it. I walk over there, I look at it during boring Zoom meetings, stuff like that, and from wax packs, you start to get into wax boxes. And, and I've started to trust BBC, shrink wrapping a lot more. They have, logos on there now. They've got a hologram sticker on the back that if you go to his website, the number there correlates to a box that they graded. So it's getting tightened up a little bit. Obviously, we have Steve Hart, lead BBC on the show, and it's him. It's very subjective. It's him looking at every single one and deciding yes or no. I just sent him 6 boxes to get graded, and 4 of them were 79 tops. And he replied back. He goes, 3 of them are good. 2 of them are, 2 of them are good. And he goes, one of your 79 boxes is actually 81 wrapped in 79 wrappers in a 79 box. And he goes, they did that in 79. They kept using the wrappers in the boxes in 80 and 81. And he's like, so you got lucky. Yours are 81. And I'm like, that's awesome. I'll take 81 over 79. But such good customer service. I don't know. It's hard not to, put some weight behind it. But also I started getting into unopened wax cases, just cases of, wax boxes. And the picture I sent out today was an 88 Topps football wax box, case, with 20 boxes in it. And I just have to laugh because I've told the story about meeting a guy in Seattle who sold, like 150 88 Topps wax boxes for $5 each or something like that. And I picked them up in my Ford Bronco, and, I didn't realize how much volume and weight those things were. And then had to haul them to my basement, opened, about 20 boxes and then eventually sold a bunch, just, for $10 each. And now here we are, fast forward about 6 or 7 years, and a 88 boxes worth, $150 if it's in good shape.
Right. I can't believe that. I still don't understand, especially for common. I'm seeing prices for 89 tops and 89 and 90 tops football going through the roof. And what is the reason? I mean, I just don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to me. I mean, who's that? Like 88, I can see a few, star players, the Bo Jackson rookie. But why is it worth $150? I mean, again, I remember seeing it at shows for $5 in clearance, and I'd buy a box just to open it, just for opening something type of thing.
Yeah,
crazy.
No, I totally agree.
Doesn't make any sense.
88, to me is the last of the, before it's overproduced. Because, I mean,
right.
89, you started to get a lot of competition from, others. And so 88 is the last of the stranglehold to me, it's interesting.
The same thing with 88 Fleer in Action, the last set, and the 88 Swell Football Greats. Even those black boxes are starting to go up. And again, 88 Swell, which is the Football Greats set, it's a reprint set. I mean, what could possibly drive that to make the wax box worth that much more money? 88 Fleer I can see to a certain degree because, again, it was a niche market. You only had 12 years of it. It's the last year of it. If you putting together a run of wrappers from 76 to 88 of Fleer in Action, or if you're putting together the sticker sets, yeah, I can see it going up more and having some value to it. But I just don't buy what I'm seeing in these prices. It's a valid argument that you make, though, and valid analysis, that 88 tops is the end of the era, and that's it. And football cards, basically for the past 33 years, have never been the same. Since 1989, a Pro Set and Score went on the market, and then the early 90s, where you had an incredible mix of different brands and card companies out there, all competing one way or the other. I always said to people, what I think is going to be a real sleeper collection in the future? Put together a run of actual football wrappers from 1989 to 2022. You probably have literally 300-400 wrappers to try to collect, try to find them. I mean, how many people save them type of thing. That to me, the new modern collectible, especially if you're a wrapper collector, one way or the other.
Yeah.
And it just amazes me, truly amazes me. But I got to congratulate you seeing that photo again and seeing the other unopened wax you have and the wax back, so on and so forth. I mean, it's amazing to see. It really is. And again, the market is there.
Yeah. Hey, you know what, Bob? I'm really enjoying it. And it's been 6-8 months since I've looked at my 48 leaf set, or since I bought we all have our typical things we look for on eBay. And to me, it's Sunday night, dinner finishes, grab the laptop, watching a movie, with the family. And I have my eBay searches, and your typical stuff. I mean, we've all got them, and I used to be a set collector, so I had my folder with every set I was working on and what cards I was grinding through. And now it's just it's a couple things. Like out of habit, I still search for 48 leaf, PSA and SGC graded, but it's been I'll admit I usually make it about 30 or 60 seconds into the search and then stop, because I'm not interested in collecting it anymore. It's just, just how, the card doctors have kind of taken the joy out of that for me. When you look at a card, you see a perfect card, and instead of going, that's a beautiful card, you're like, that's obviously been doctored. I mean, which is a sad thing.
Well, again, you mature as a collector, and you want to collect different things. You want to go to a different avenue, something that, you hit the nail right on the head. I want to collect something that I enjoy. I want to collect something that's fun, or whatever the case may be. And it's not what I have been collecting in the past. And again, I'm only looking for a handful of things now for my collection because what else am I going to collect? Yeah, there's certain things I still want to try to find, but unpacking this whole experience has just proven to me, I can't believe how much inventory I actually have, and B, I say to myself, I think I got a full retirement job for the next 10 years to try to really sell off and/or trade the stuff I'm not collecting anymore. And again, I will point out, I want to really try to get a better read when I'm in Atlantic City at the National, what's going on with football publications. So we're just looking at early NFL programs and/or programs from 1969 and back. What's going on with Street and Smiths? What's going on with the Illustrated Football Annuals, Stanley Woodward Football, so on and so forth, media guides and the like. And when now we see most teams are not publishing actual printed media guides that go into PDF files, what does that really mean for printed matter in the hobby? And I really believe it's exceptionally undervalued right now because it's continuing to dry up. And again, we've talked about this 100 times, but we talked about it once. Items before 1945 are rare, in my opinion. There's just not a lot out there. And as much as people say, well, there's no demand for it one way, well, I tend to disagree with that. As new collectors come in the hobby, as collectors mature and want to collect something else, they branch off into publications. They branch off into ticket stubs, so on and so forth. So it'll be interesting. I want to try to get a feel. I want to talk to a few publication dealers that I know will be setting up there and see what they say. And I could be surprised. They may be telling me, it's never been better. And then I'll say, well, you're going to take a ride over to my house then and look at what I got. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's like I've said, I'm really enjoying it. I love, and we're all gambling. I'm online looking for low hanging fruit when, I've started to know what the prices of an unopened, BBC graded, box should be. So I'm constantly looking for them, watching them. Once in a while you find a case, and then every once in a while I will roll the dice on on an unauthenticated, 79, 84, whatever it is, wax box. And then I have a little bit of wiggle room. I get it, I inspect it, and then I send it off to Steve Hart as quick as possible. But like I said, I just sent off. Go for it.
My question is, and explain to our audience, what does he actually do with that 79 rewrap of the 81s? I'm curious about that. I know you mentioned it on the show, but let's refresh our listeners' memory there.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, but they must have printed a lot of extra inventory in 79, or the set wasn't very popular and it didn't sell. But you will find 1980 football wrapped in 79 wrappers and in a 79 box. You will find 1981 wrapped in 79 wrappers in a 79 box, just not as common. So it seems like they were just trying to get rid of old inventory rather than throw it away. Think about how little money there is if for a 0.5 cent wrapper or whatever it costs to make that, they felt compelled to reuse it. But what he does is he BBCE shrink wraps that, and on the label on the back he says 79 wrappers, 81 cards. He has wording for it. And he emailed me and he goes, you got lucky. So I'll label that. And he goes, in box 2, it was 79 and it was perfect. It looks good. And he goes, box 3, you had 33 good packs and 3 bad. And in box 4, you had the other way around, 33 bad and 3 good. So he goes, I took the 3 good and put it in the, box 3 and sealed it. And I'm going to send you a box with 39 bad, 79 wax packs. He goes, and I know this guy's work. He's in Pennsylvania, et cetera. And I'm like, well, it looks like we're doing a wax pack rip, at the next national. I sent him a picture of my son Xander doing a wax rip at a national. And I go, this is how we do it. So I'm like, next national, I'm bringing a resealed box of 79, and I'm going to tell everybody it's resealed, and we're going to open it up and check it out.
It'd be interesting. It'd be a fun rip, to say the least. So,
well, and people who are in the know will know. I remember your 65 Philly, pack that I got you.
Yep.
And you opened, you immediately looked up, you're like, this is bad. I mean, you've opened enough to know immediately. 79 is when I started ripping. I just wasn't paying attention. I wish I would have.
Well, it's interesting. I can remember back in the 70s, I opened a lot of wax, and at the same time, I remember more 81, 82, 83 opening, and I remember the return boxes that I opened over the years, the ones that had the big black mark through them, which got sent back to Tops, and then there was resold, but it used to see them in the shows for $5-10 a box, and if I saw them, I would buy a box or two, so on and so forth. And again, quick story, which I'll never forget. At one show, I bought a single box of 1986 Tops football, okay? And this was probably in 87. It had the black mark in it, so on and so forth. I paid $5 for the box. Fast forward, maybe 90, 91, I'm at a show. The guy's asking me, how much do you want for the box? I said, well, make me an offer. And he said, I'll give you, and again, this is right as the explosion is happening. And he offered me $140 for the box, which I thought was incredible. So I took it because I figured I made $135 on the box. Little, did I know if I held it longer, we're talking serious money, getting it wrapped, certified, so on and so forth. But that's the way it was back then. I mean, it was an incredible sum of money to me, even though it's insignificant today. To buy something for $5 and sell it for $140 type of thing. It's truly amazing. I always found that to be amazing with those return boxes. And I can't tell you how many return boxes I bought and sold over the years either.
Massive discount for the X-Out boxes. I mean, 30%.
Yep.
And it's so fascinating to me because it's the same damn wax packs inside. Who cares if there's an X-Out of your box? I had an 86 Tops wax, speaking of your story, an 86 Tops wax football that was BBCE graded that was X-Out. And I was buying something, and the guy had an 86 wax box that he'd ripped. She's like, all the cards are in there. I took the Rice out, the Jerry Rice out. So he was selling it with something else I wanted, so I bought it. But his wax box was non-X-Out. I sent the non-X-Out empty box and the X-Out, BBC sealed box to Steve Hart with a couple other boxes like a year ago, just saying, hey, you graded this X-Out. Can you open it, put the 36 packs in the non-X-Out, and then you can keep the X-Out box and then reseal it. And he did. So I ended up with a non-X-Out. I mean, it's a vanity thing, to have a non-X-Out box. But I mean, I think I got the box for $30, and and I got it for $600 cheaper because it was non-X-Out. Funny.
Right. It's again, I agree with you. The X-Out box, the black mark on the box is really meaningless because you're more concerned about the material in it. However, for purists, they want a real wax box.
Absolutely.
Type of thing.
Absolutely.
So, and I vaguely remember 86 was the last year they stopped doing the X-Outs. I don't remember ever seeing 87 wax with the X's on it. I could be wrong, but I just don't remember at all. And again, 88, I don't ever remember an X-Out after that. So 86 to me is the last year.
Never thought about that. Yeah, I don't think I've noticed it too. I think you're right.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it's 86. You're probably right. I don't know. I'm just I'm enjoying it. The one thing I didn't send the picture of, I mentioned in a text thread. In my office I have a basement that's concrete. My office, and there's a stairway that goes downstairs that's it's basement or it's concrete. Ceiling, all three sides, and it's an impenetrable fortress, and there's only we have it master keyed, so there's only about 3 people to key, and I keep most of my uncut sheets, all of them actually, in there. I built a shelf a little weighted, melamine board that I put on top of it with some stuff. So when somebody sends me a rolled, sheet, I roll it out, put a weight on it, a couple tiles on it for a little while, and then the next time I go down there, I slip it under the melamine board. And the one thing I didn't send in that picture was off to my left is where I keep all my wax boxes, since I moved them out of our house since when we had that fire. So it's that's become my football room. It's kind of funny.
So you're in good shape there. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, uncut sheets are my other, baby. I mean, it's the one thing in this hobby that can't be faked, ripped off, doctored. I mean, I tip my hat to someone if they can, glue or tape together, a bunch of cards and, and somehow slip it by. It'd be almost impossible. So, that's the uncut sheet, the sanctity of that, knowing that if, some of them are old enough, you see tears and, stuff like that, but you recognize that when you're buying them and how to take care of them. I just bought a 1960 Fleer uncut, about 9 months ago when I was unrolling it and trying to flatten it out. It didn't want to flatten out, and just where it had a lot of memory on a roll when I was trying to flatten out, it just ripped. So I'm like, okay, that won't quite do it. So I just kind of did it in phases. I rolled out part of it and weighted it down and just kind of moved the thing around. But now I ended up with a big rip right down the middle that's about a foot long because it had been rolled up so long and so dry that it just stuck there.
Correct. Well, it's interesting. The 60 Fleer, I actually sold over the years many strips, 5 foot.
Yeah. In strips, yeah.
I sold many strips of 60 Fleers, and I think a lot of it had to do with the cracking of it. I really believe that. So.
Yeah. So, yeah. I wonder. That's a good point because I've seen that like 2 or 3 of those as well. You're absolutely right. Where it's cut into strips. I've never understood why it's cut into strips, but
that might make a lot of sense right now because the whatever they used for stock dried out over the years badly, and probably got a lot of crack sheets like that. So people were cutting them into. Again, I distinctly remember a 10-card sheet, 10-card cut, and a 5-card cut. So you could probably do the same with yours. You never know. So
I would rather have a full sheet with a tear down the middle than cut it up. I try not to have a lot of regrets, but my one regret is missing that 1926, Sports Card of America uncut sheet that was blank backed. Yeah, that was 13 years ago, and I still remember it and shake my head. I don't remember what auction house, but they had it listed in baseball. And I don't sift through baseball, category very often, but they just had it listed in baseball, so I didn't even see it. So, for the last decade out of habit, now I go through the first couple pages of, baseball just to check and see if there's anything that they, forgot to cross over. So.
Right. So hopefully it'll come back at some point. You never know. All right, as we're covered down, we got about 18 more minutes left in the show. Touched upon the National. We touched upon on the Open. We touched upon sheets. Question, and we talked about this briefly before. What's your opinion of what's going on in the modern card market? Do you think it collapsed?
Yeah, good point. I mean, and I just, I brought that up on, vintage football. It was, I literally noticed an auction that opened up. I don't have a membership or whatever you want to call it, a bid profile or golden auction. I just, I vomit a little bit in my mouth, thinking, but I still check it out. And like Golden just opened, I filtered through, looked at the football, and there were 79 football items for sale. 4 pages, 20 each. And I sifted through all 4 pages, and there were 2 things that were older than that were issued before 2000. An 81 Montana rookie card and an 86 Rice card. All the rest was shiny and modern. And so 77 modern stuff that was 2000 and older, and most of the 2000 stuff was was your Tom Brady stuff. And I was just like, wow, that's incredible. I mean, if you haven't noticed, basketball has taken a massive surge. It used to be, hockey, basketball. It used to be in this order: baseball, football, basketball, hockey, the big 4.
Right.
And if there were 100, baseball sets, there were 50 football, 25 basketball, and 10 hockey. I mean, just kind of those ratios. I remember looking at them once. And literally now it's modern, shiny basketball. I mean, I don't know where that happened. Was it with the Last Dance, the Michael Jordan, ESPN thing during the pandemic? Who knows? But basketball now accounts, it's massive. And then being drugged along with that is, bright and shiny, modern football. And a lot of it boils down to the chase cards. It's, the Tom Brady golden ticket, legends thing. I mean, I don't know. And it kind of stunned me.
I think what's going to be interesting in the long run is I really believe that, again, we're going through another bubble, especially with modern football. Vintage football is pretty well protected one way or the other. But I think modern football, the bubble is approaching rapidly. I know at the National I'm going to see all the tables set up for the pack rips, so on and so forth, on so many different brands and types of football cards, so on and so forth. I'm sure there's still going to be people buying it and waiting and running to get them graded, so on and so forth. But I just can't see it sustainable. I really can't. And, we mentioned, why would you spend $100,000 on a modern-day card? Obviously, if you got that much money to spend on it, it's immaterial to you whether you spend $100,000 or $1 million on it. You know what I'm saying? But to a true collector, a real collector, they're saying to themselves, this is not possible. This doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? So that's why I feel we're definitely on a bubble, and it's going to pop very a lot quicker, I think, than what people imagine.
Is it slowing down, Captain? Is it slowing down? Because Leland's had another one of those 2000 playoff contender championship ticket Tom Brady rookie cards.
Yep.
The golden ticket one. There's 100 of them that were made. This is about the 12th one that Leland's has sold. So last week, or a couple days ago, they sold one, and this is the highest. The most. You want to talk about the most expensive football item in history. From game used memorabilia cards, you name it. Joe Namath jersey in the Super Bowl, none of it would touch what this 2000 playoff contender Tom Brady championship ticket would go for. So they just sold one. It was graded a BGS 7 with a 10 for the autograph. Tom Brady's autograph looks like crap. So I mean, it's hard to grade his autograph on a 1 to 10. But it was a 7. The 8 sold for 1.4 million. The 9 sold for 2.5 million, or whatever it was. And here's a 7. It sold for 513,102. Yes, a lot of money.
Wow.
But, that includes the hammer. So minus 20 points off of that. So it's probably 450 plus 90, 440 or so. So that is probably a year ago. This was probably a $700,000 or $800,000 card, and now it's 513.
Right.
So I mean, is the discretionary income slowing down? Are interest rates rising? Where people, I mean, you're a different kind of collector if you're, stroking a check for $2 million to buy a Tom Brady card like that. So, I mean, is this all, people, chasing a lottery ticket? I mean, who knows? And there's only so many people out there who can do that. So suddenly you see one of these go for 513. You're like, that's still about 300,000 more than it should be, but who knows? Right.
It just truly amazes me to see that kind of money for those kind of cards. And again, we can argue this, to the sunsets. Is it good for the hobby or is it bad for the hobby? And somebody getting into the hobby for the first time, they may just say to themselves, "Well, gee, I will never collect those big name cards. I'll never collect a card that's over $100 in value." That kind of situation. Yep. And, you can't box out in the hobby the beginning collector. And again, you got to throw away my collecting experience because you're never going to see that again. You're going to let a kid out with, $50, $100 at a show, and hopefully he gets a good mix of cards or packs for his collection.
Totally.
Type of thing. As compared to $5, 30 years ago, for crying out loud. So it's the perspective and what is going on with the market, and again, Fanatics taking over the market. I really would like to see what's going on. We know already they're going to be producing college football cards, which is exciting the hobby because we haven't really seen any college cards for years now. And that's going to bring back some people back into the hobby. It'll be interesting to see. But at the same time, what is going to be the long-term implication of a card selling in auction for $2.5 million? And what happens if a year from now it's only worth $500,000? You know what I mean? That's a big hit. You're not talking a $20, $30 hit. You're talking a $2 million hit.
Yeah, well, in that same auction, just to put things in perspective, in that same auction was a 1916 M101 Babe Ruth rookie card when he's a pitcher, for the Red Sox. It was an ugly one. It had a crease in it. It was a 1.5 SGC that sold for $250,000. So there you've got, a pretty poor, Babe Ruth card that sold for half of what that Tom Brady did. And in the same, just to, again, put things in perspective, you had, there was a Justin Herbert. Hang on, I'm looking for it. I'm on the Leland. Oh, they don't even list it as football, do they? Yeah, they do. Come on. Hang on a second. I just saw it. I wanted to zoom in on it. In the same auction, a 2020 Panini Contenders Optic Gold Vinyl. I mean, it's getting ridiculous, just the subsets here. Bob, listen to this. I'm going to tell you, this is a Justin Herbert card, obviously a University of Oregon star. I, being a Duck fan, love Justin Herbert. But listen to this. 2020 Panini Contenders Optic Football Gold Vinyl Autographed. number 104. I mean, I was just like, what? Is there a 2020 Panini Contenders Optic Football Silver Vinyl Autograph? I mean, who knows? It's just it's aggravating. Just these little subsets. Give me a 1977 Topps number 177, larger card here it is. But it had an opening bid. This 2020 Panini Contenders Optic Football Gold Vinyl number 104 Justin Herbert rookie autograph card had an opening bid of $15,000, and it did not get the opening bid. So that was interesting to me. And there was one other weird football chase card that didn't quite get it. Where was it? Anyways, there was a couple of them that didn't make the minimum. And it looks like I remember there were more than one, and all of a sudden I'm seeing some low bids. So I wonder if I'm wondering if Leland's reached out to somebody and said, make us an offer. If the opening bid is 15, how does 10 sound or something like that? Because there were 3 or 4 that didn't meet the opening bid. I was like, that's kind of embarrassing, you know.
So you know, again, you got to look at that somebody opened a pack probably, or was in a pack rip. They bought that spot, they got the card, they paid X amount of dollars for it. They're saying to themselves, I could be set picking up a quick $5,000-$10,000, and this is what I'm going to do, and that's it. And you know, again, it's inevitable. The lottery feel, you know, opening up a pack turned into buying a lottery ticket because you don't know what you're going to get into. And I know the stuff I opened this past summer and fall that I bought while I was down here, while we're waiting for the house to be finished. I said to myself, this is utterly ridiculous. I mean, it makes no sense to me to spend this kind of money and open these packs in hope that I'm going to get something that has some value to it. It just makes no sense to me. Knowing full well, there's no possible way I can put a set together by opening packs because of all the short prints. And that's what it just amazes me of where the hobby went in 40 years, or, you know, in 30 plus years of the expansion of the explosion in football cards. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's truly crazy. All right, we're down to about, hold on, hang on one second. We're down to about 5.5 minutes. Again, if you are not a subscriber to Gridiron Greats Magazine, what are you waiting for? Check out our website, gridirongreatsmagazine.com. And also, please know, with the new increase in postage that's coming up July 10th, I am going to inevitably have to increase my subscription rates for the first time in 13 years. So if you're thinking about resubscribing, or you want to add a year or two to your subscription, by all means, please do it now. I'll have more information at the National as far as where we're going with it. Back to you, Joe. Final thoughts.
Gridiron Greats.
The bargain market.
Gridiron Greats is such a value. The amount of work and love that goes into, a quarterly, subscription like this. I mean, between, you and Brenda, working tirelessly on this thing, and Jared, working on illustrations, covers, it's just, and all the people writing for it. It's such a labor of love. And it's such a value. If you're a football collector and you're not a subscriber, what are you waiting for is the gentle way to say it. I mean, it's like, what the hell are you thinking is the better thing. It's such a good value. I honestly thought you should have raised prices years ago. I mean, this should be, you could easily charge, $50, $60, for this, and for an annual subscription. And to me, it's still a value for the content that's coming out. It's amazing.
We just picked up a new subscriber, and I'll just use his first name, Frank. And he said, I can't tell you. He found us through a site that we advertise on, an auction site. And he said, I can't tell you how happy I am holding a magazine in my hand again and reading about football. He says, I can't tell you how happy I am. And he subscribed for the 2 years. I sent him a few back issues, and he's going to get the back run from our issues from 23 up. And he just said, I can't be any happier. And if you're that type of person who likes to hold that magazine and you're not a subscriber, absolutely, what are you waiting for? All right, we're getting low on time. So Martin, let's wrap Martin, and then we'll go into our 2-minute warning.
Yeah, and first of all, did Frank specifically say, I love holding this magazine? By the way, that article on the 89, they're the 76 Seahawks, really, that set the hook and really lured me in.
That was a great article. And again, I like reading about oddball, unusual, local, regional types of sets in football. I mean, to me, that's the greatest part of the hobby. I don't care what anybody says.
I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't get a Seahawk or a larger joke in, per episode. So
I know.
Modern.
I appreciate it.
So it is, just to put a bow on it. First of all, I feel like we're two old men sitting on our porch bitching about, modern pricing. I don't want it to turn into that, but, you shake your head at, modern prices, and all of a sudden we're seeing them creep down a little bit, and you're wondering what the bubble was that buoyed those prices up, and, and what the future will hold for that. So I guess I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. All right, we're going to go into our 2-minute warning quick. What did you pick up on tonight's show, Joe?
Oh, It's always just a pleasure, talking hobby with you, Bob. It really is. Southport, North Carolina's, it's starting to become comfortable. I'll get used to it instead of Wallingford, Connecticut. It's just been so ingrained in me. But I'll get there over time. And it's been a couple weeks, so it's really good to get back on the hobby horse and talk football with you, Captain.
Yeah, and hopefully we're going to get a couple more shows in for June, and then July we're going to be more closer to the National. We'll talk about a few things there. With a minute and a half left, my pick on tonight's show, I'm still amazed at where Unopened Wax went, including the 88 tops. I love your Uncut Sheet collection. One day I got to get out to the West Coast trip from Mike Blaisdell down to you, down to Brenda's niece, and Todd Tobias with Lance Allworth buying us lunch, and then heading home here. So it is what it is, wow. And that's it. All right, we got 1 minute left. 1 minute. Final thoughts, Joe.
If you one of these days, if you pull the trigger on that West Coast trip, you'll have a place to stay. I'll if you fly in, I'll pick you up. I'll give you the concierge service, Captain.
We'll be doing the West Coast crawl, and we'll hit as many vineyards as we can also along the way. Great show, Joe. Thanks for being on. Thanks for all our listeners, and thanks to all our subscribers to Gridiron Greats magazine. Hopefully we'll be back next week with a very interesting show that we're working on as we speak. Until that time, thanks for listening. Check out our website again, gridirongreatsmagazine.com. We'll see you. Thanks.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, a.k.a. the Football History Dude, and I wanted to thank you for stopping by to listen to another episode here on the Sports History Network. Our podcasters are passionate about uncovering and sharing sports stories from yesteryear. And if you didn't know it already, we have over 30 shows across the network covering all sorts of sports history topics. In fact, here's a glimpse into one of our awesome podcasts here on the network.
Each week, the official Football Learning Academy podcast will take you deep into the history of pro football through interviews with players, coaches, or administrators in the NFL, as well as interviews with Pro Football Hall of Fame selectors, authors, and historians. You'll learn how the game evolved and important moments that shaped the sport into what it is today. And don't miss the Pro Football History Nugget of the Week. Listen to the official Football Learning Academy podcast on the Sports History Network.
How about that? I bet you're super hyped to go listen to that new podcast, right? Well, to learn about this show and all the other podcasts on the network, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com/podcast. Again, that's sportshistorynetwork.com/podcast. Head over there today to find your next favorite sports history podcast.